I remember when I first decided to take this trip, I was like really anxious. But I remember when I arrived and the first thing that we saw was like a screen and we were told like what we do, what we can't do, being taught how to, interact with the girls. And I saw the girls kind of gathering and then immediately I got emotional. And I think largely because my girls are 5, 7, and 9, it just struck differently. I was saddened overall that every girl were like youth group age and under, but especially seeing such like small, tiny girls that are the size of, my girls and the unimaginable things that they must have gone through, like that was overwhelming. When we were at the safe house, it was um, this desire for them to feel so loved and seen, like from the bags that my wife and the girls got to participate in making, our entire church, like everything that they collected to give them that, like, you're special, you're individually loved. I think that having Santa Claus, Elder Young Ho, give them the presents with their name on it, them coming up, that was amazing. Then when we went around, where the community center was, and we went and laid hands and actually prayed for each of the prostitutes. And there were a lot of older prostitutes. And I remember one lady was so jovial and happy, and just kind of seemed like she had just kind of accepted this is who she was. But when I began to pray and speak words of being a daughter of God who was precious, who was loved, and as I prayed for her, she started weeping. But as she was crying and as she was hearing these words of love and how precious she is, like she started kind of covering up. And it was almost like this. She began to be who she really is and to hear who she is, and she was overwhelmed by those emotions. That was powerful. When we had the block party and these young girls came, and I remember watching them like blow out the candles on a cupcake, because we don't know when the last time someone celebrated their birthday was. And then the mariachi band started playing and they came out on the streets and started dancing. I think like I was overwhelmed emotionally and yet so joyful to watch them have 2 to 3 hours where they weren't seen as bodies to be used by men, but they were like little girls who almost had that joy restored to them as they were dancing and as they were being served and cared for, and food and all these gifts and things were just to tell them like you are precious. I think that forever, that street, that dancing, the it will stay with me forever. There was this overwhelming sense of like every minute that we were with these girls in all these different places, I wish that they would feel that from every man who was there, from our team. And ultimately that would translate to them feeling like that's what the Heavenly Father is for them. That He is always present with them, that He is always watching over them, and so heartbroken over the way that they're being treated. All this abuse, rape, like pornography, like the abuse of women is something that kind of we address systematically at churches by challenging men to say, when you walk into a room, do you make everyone in that room feel seen, loved, safe, and cared for? And I feel like we have to address them. These young boys, since they're like, growing up, they needed someone to disciple them and say, you don't treat women like that. You don't think that way. You don't give in to pornography. You fight every second of your life to become a man who makes women feel safer, seen, loved, and cared for because you're in the room. Christ Central, like, the gospel heals us because we feel safe, we feel seen, we feel loved in our brokenness. And somewhere along the way, we got very confused as to the purpose of why he leaves us here instead of taking us home to be with him. I hope one day that we all come together and to offer to one another this reality, this hope, that Christ is at work among us to heal us so that we can offer that to others, especially those that God placed before us at our work, our neighborhood, our family, and the people that we serve. And I think until we begin to participate in that work, you'll always feel empty. And even while you're serving at church, and even while you're like, have titles and leadership at church, you'll feel empty unless you are certain that Christ wants to use your brokenness, your doubts, and your fears to reach the same people who have the same doubt, same brokenness, same feeling, until we all as a church together want to do that together. We'll just become a church that plugs holes and puts out fires and makes more programs, and we just won't be fulfilled. And we'll always feel like there's greener grass out there and that anything we do doesn't really matter. But I think if we can see it the way that our team got to see it, and it could be anything from short-term missions to serving, reaching out to our neighbors, being part of all the different discipleship groups and programs, and maybe investing in youth and CK, whatever it is, but it has to be part of the healing that you've received, you wanting to see it in others. And I think when that happens, then the gospel will become beautiful. And then I think Christ becomes beautiful. And then you'll be fulfilled in everything that you do. And so I hope that that's what we're here to do together as a church.